Today we're going to look at A Quiet Place, Day 1. So this is directed by Michael Sarnoski, so a completely different director than the first one, also different cast than the first two films. Time is 1 hour, 40 minutes, which is right around the sweet spot I like of an hour and a half. So the story is, this is the third movie based on A Quiet Place with these monsters with the giant ears and they invade. This is the Day 1 invasion. And this is in New York City versus the first two films were in the farmland, in the middle of the suburbs, kind of farmland. So quite a different thing, completely different cast. So just a break from the first two films using the same monsters basically. It has a young patient. She's close to death. She's at this place you go to die with old people. Somehow I just forgot it at the top of my head. My ex-wife used to work in there, but I don't remember right now. So it's sound design. They kind of use some of the same elements, but because there's no deaf person in this, it's just not as cool as the first film. They did keep the sound elements similar with quiet scenes when they're hiding from the monster and all that, and then a little bit of music when the monster might be after them or something, but just not as cool sound design. In some parts it just felt dead instead of scary. In the first film it actually felt scary when it was super quiet. It just freaked you out as an audience member. Now you're used to it and it just doesn't come across as strong. It's pretty cohesive with the first film, but again, there's no deaf person, so you don't have that really nice element of dead quiet versus a little bit of noise and then with music. So in the first film they had those three qualities of sound levels, and this one you only have two. Jump scares are pretty paced out. Third act seems a bit empty, pointless. Go to a pizza place, but yeah, it's kind of like the last request of this woman, but in a way it makes sense, in a way it doesn't. But anyway, that was kind of the final scene. It was cute with the final scene at the pizzeria. They get drinks and they have kind of a bit of a closing for the main actress, the main character, because she's dying and she just gets to see where her father used to play the piano. They don't play the piano, which kind of would have been a kind of cool scene, but she doesn't play piano, so it would have been kind of sad that the aliens come in and destroy this music, which obviously is a horrible death for music with this type of invasion. This one they used a cat. They added a cat in there, which I have a cat right here. Very similar looking cat too to the movie cat, black and white. I like the ad of the cat because they took some film camera from the cat's perspective, and you'd lose the cat and then find the cat and then lose the cat and pick up the cat, and the cat would get in danger. So a little bit of reminiscent back to Alien back in 1979 with them chasing the cat down and the cat creating a nuisance, but the cat didn't feel exactly natural. Obviously all these creatures are blue screen creatures, but the cat doesn't seem scared at all. In the original Alien, the cat is definitely scared, and the cat definitely knows there's a monster and is very fearful, and you can see it in the cat, and they capture that on camera. This one, the cat's walking around, it's a green screen monster, and the humans are acting scared, but the cat doesn't, so it takes you a little bit out of it as far as the cat would react. Like, my cat's quiet right now, but it's not scared. There's nothing in here. But if there's a predator, it's going to scratch the hell out of me and jump away. And you really didn't have that in the film, I don't think. Also, there's a scene where they go underwater with a cat. The cat would have clawed you to death before going under the water. It'd be very unlikely the cat would survive that, but you'd have a little bit of... You gotta let that go with the film, just kind of ride with the film. I like this backstory of the second character. He's an English student who's come over to start his law degree career, and he just came over and now he's stranded in America after the invasion starts, and he'll probably never see his countrymen again, which is really tragic. I think they could have had him discuss kind of as they go along the plot, like differences between America and UK, and kind of bring that up and make his character a little bit sharper. Kind of would have been a cool idea, I think. They don't really have that at all, which you kind of wouldn't care about that stuff, but if you're going to use an Englishman, then bring in the differences, because there are differences and people would be talking about them and kind of making fun of each other and ribbing each other, and that would add more weight to the character and more to the film. It's a diverse cast with people from all over the world, which makes sense as being New York. It's the melting pot. There's immigrants from all over the world, so I think that's pretty consistent versus the first two films were in the farmland. It's going to be mostly farmland people, right? It doesn't really fit in with the first two films. The first two films was in the farm with a whole different cast, so they're really just stripping down the monsters. It kind of makes this film a little bit more hollow, generic, because they don't use the original cast. Similar to when you get further along with Aliens, for example, they stop using Sigourney Weaver and you're like, what's the point? It's obviously based on Sigourney, and then the monsters are just the monsters, right? So it would have been nice to kind of include some member of the original cast, maybe their daughter or something, and she's trying to get back to the farmland and connect that a little bit, just faintly, would have been a much stronger connection with the first two films. So they kind of missed out, I think, there, but it is a whole different city, so why would they run into the daughter of one of the cast members from the first two movies? Another interesting twist is the aliens also are revealed to have another weakness, which you don't know in the first two films, but would make sense in this film because in New York City, and New York is in boroughs and it's surrounded by water. Different islands make up New York City. If you don't know, it's not just one city, on the water. It's actually split onto different islands islands, Long Island and Brooklyn and all these different, they just have different, Manhattan is its own island as well. So they're just split up on different islands. So the monsters cannot swim, which is kind of interesting. They just drown right away in the water, which I guess is possible, but it kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, what creature doesn't know how to swim naturally in water? Even this cat would probably throw in water and swim. Or dog would know how to swim. But that's kind of cool. The creature design was slightly different. In the first film, they had these giant ears. And in this film, they weren't as prominent with the ear design. At least that's how I felt. Maybe it was just the angles they shot the creatures at. But it seemed like they changed the design of the creatures a bit. More focused on the face and their teeth. So a little bit different creature look from what I could tell. It might have just been the angles they shot were way different. But it kind of doesn't make sense because in a way, you know, the creatures are really sound sensitive. So getting rid of the giant ears doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't see that in the film, but it looks like they took out the giant ears and kind of slimmed them down to normal kind of ears with their face opening up as the sensitivity. But I think that was consistent with the first film, but the fact they got rid of the ears just doesn't make sense. And a little bit inconsistent with the creature design, but a little bit to overlook. They had a couple scenes where they're quiet scenes like in a library or in a house or something takes between the monsters and people are kind of chill. And they're still using a little bit of shaky cam and they're just kind of like moving around. And you're like, there's no action. Why are these people talking dialogue and you're moving around? Like, I don't know why they do that. I just find it super annoying when the heads are moving around and there's not really, it's just normal dialogue and there's no reason to move around like this. They didn't do it a lot, but just a little bit. And I just find it stupid. I would just put it on a nice dolly and just kind of track back and forth. Maybe up and down, but just have a smooth camera when those shots and just use shaky cam when they're actually being chased by the monsters or running away from the monsters or the kind of hiding around the monsters. And that's a little okay for shaky cam to make you feel like you're actually there. But when the monsters aren't there and you're just kind of dialogue scenes, don't have shaky cam. It just takes you out of, it kind of puts you into the cameraman becomes his own character, which I guess is kind of cool, but you can't make it that obvious, I think. And again, the last scene, my brother was kind of drifting off to sleep. He tends to fall asleep in boring movies. I didn't say this film was boring, but the last act just seemed drawn out. And I think you could have cut 5 minutes of the scene down, maybe get to the pizzeria faster. I don't know. But after the pizzeria, it speeds up, but they have this scene where they're just going to the pizzeria and it just seems to take forever. So yeah, I think they just could have cut 5 minutes right out there and it, just get down to the hour and a half. I think they could have done it in this film, possibly. Take out 5-10 minutes of the film. Yeah, I like the film, but it's definitely not as strong as the first two films, but, pretty good. Entertaining. I don't think it'd be worth probably collecting this. It's not as bad as the Star Wars 7 and 9 and further Star Wars done by Disney, but it definitely has some issues versus the first two films, but I'd say pretty strong, but it's definitely kind of, it's going downhill from there. That's my review, and if you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe below, and I'll see you in the next movie review. See you guys.